From Mountain Home to Raft River, we've got all the District 4 analysis you'll need to know. This is the Magic Valley Prepcast with Scott Burton.
That's right. It's another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast, your weekly District 4 breakdown on IdahoSports.com. I'm Brandon Baney. I'm the host of this show. And now let's bring in our District 4 guru. It's Scott Burton. Actually, Tiger Woods in the house. What's going on, Tiger?
Doing a quick little, podcast before I tee off in the Masters this coming weekend. So, my time is valuable. And but I thought, I'd do anything for my Idaho sports people. So here I am.
Wow, what a guy. If we could just get you to film a testimonial for us, that would be fantastic. So again, second week in a row, if you are listening to the audio only version of this podcast at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, you won't get to see what I'm talking about here. But if you're watching the video version of this at the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel or Facebook page, you'll see on the bottom of our screen, we have these little name tags that identify who we are. I'm Brandon Baney, and that's Scott Burton. And last week, Scott, as a clever little trick, decided to put Kelly Leak from Chico's Bail Bonds in honor of the Bad News Bears and baseball season getting ready to start. And well, this week on the Prepcast, we are dedicating the entire show to golf. And so appropriately enough, here's Scott with the fake name of Tiger Woods on his display screen. And you've got a nice picture of Tiger in the background of your office there too.
Yeah, I've got a guy in LA who actually draws these for me. And I've got a whole bunch of them on the way. He just put in the mail today, but that one that he's got right there of Tiger Woods, he drew that one of Kurt Warner. He's got this one right.
Right there.
He drew that one at Kobe. And then this one is really cool because he drew this one of Coach Krzyzewski. And in the corner right here, that's a picture of me and Coach Krzyzewski right there. And so I'm creating this big giant wall of all these drawings and paintings and whatnot. I've got my Ram stuff over here, limited edition. I have another contracted artist.
He's going to show us.
I'm going to show you that drew that one for me.
Okay, and that's Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp from this past season. Yep.
Yeah. So I am turning my office into this collection of sports art drawn by real people that I know that I've talked to.
That's pretty cool. It's all the teams I hate, but I can't stand Duke or any of the LA teams really. I had an uncle that passed away a couple of years ago, and he had a bunch of old sports cards and memorabilia, and he just kind of divvied it up amongst all of us nephews. And I found one of those, kind of like what you had. It was like a hand sketched drawing of a player. It was Rick Mirer of the Seattle Seahawks. So not nearly as cool, but
You're pulling that one out of the archives.
Yeah, that was an old school one for sure. So anyways, get to work it back around here. We were talking about Tiger Woods. He's going to be competing in the Masters this weekend. And on one of our other Prepcasts, we don't usually go outside the boundaries of the Magic Valley, but this was a really cool story. On our Treasure Valley Prepcast that I do with Logan Green each week, where we talk about the smaller schools in District 3, there is a freshman from Cole Valley Christian that is competing at the national drive, chip, and putt competition at Augusta National down in Georgia. It's for children that are ages 7 through 15, and she's 15. So this is her last year to make it, and she's down there competing right now, representing Cole Valley Christian. It was kind of a cool deal.
Well, that is way cool. I mean, that's bucket list stuff to get to Augusta, middle-aged guys like me. It's like, man, that's the best bucket list thing you could do. And here's a 15-year-old down there, actually participating in something. So, that is way, way awesome. Very cool. If I had to do it all over again, since we're talking about golf, I played football, basketball, baseball, and ran track in college. Didn't really pick up golf until I finished playing college baseball. But if I had to do it all over again, I would have been born with a golf club in my hand, because I mean, I finished playing all those sports, and now what do I got? I have, 14 clubs in my bag that I throw about every other shot. And I love the game of golf, but I wish I'd have started it sooner. So for the kids that are out there listening, it is going to be worth your time, worth your while to pick up a golf club while you're young. Not only because you're going to enjoy the sport, for as long as you can walk, but there are so many opportunities in college for scholarships and money to get, for golf. Everybody wants to be the star football player, star volleyball, basketball. Get after some golf. That's
there's a lot of great golfers in the state of Idaho that fly out of the radar. In terms of spring sports, golf is unfortunately towards the bottom of the list in terms of exposure because there's baseball, softball, track, tennis, all these other things that are going on. But we wanted to dedicate an entire show to golf. And to be fair, I did get an email, and so we want these emails from the viewers and the listeners. If there's topics that you want us to talk about, please send me an email, Brandon@IdahoSports.com. That's what a Kimberly fan did. Sent me an email, said, "Hey, can you guys talk about some golf?" And I said, "Absolutely, let's do it." Because there's a golfer in Chalice this year, Kellyanne Strand, and she will be heading to Nebraska on a full ride scholarship to be a part of the Cornhuskers golf team starting next fall. And I feel like there's lots of those stories throughout the state of Idaho. So we're going to shine the spotlight on the golfers, and one particularly in the Magic Valley that is a fantastic golfer. She has been her entire career, but last year really came on at the state level, and that's Reece Garey from Kimberly.
Yeah, Reece is just one of those kids that is just a competitor. She signed to play at Lewis Clark State College, but she brings all the intangibles with her too. I mean, not only do you want a good golfer, you want a good kid. She's a 4.0 student. She's a 3-sport varsity athlete. She was a top 10 finisher in cross country, first team all conference in basketball. So, many things she could have gone on and played some basketball if she wanted to at the next level, but she chose golf as her path this time. And, she's senior class president. She's involved in her community, they're getting a pretty good all around kid who just happens to be a heck of a good golfer.
Yeah. Helped Kimberly at state last year. I'm trying to remember. I think they had a runner-up finish in the team title, but she was the individual medalist and state champion.
Yeah, she was the first female golfer to ever win the individual title for Kimberly High School, but her team finished second. And you talk to her coaches, then they'll tell you that's what ticked her off more, was they took second. Of course you want to win an individual title, but when the team title stings a little bit, that tells you you've got a competitor that's in it for the right reasons. And that's what this Reece Garey girl is all about. She is a competitor, but really values the team aspect of golf too, which is sometimes gets lost in golf too, because golf is the one sport that you cannot point fingers at anybody. When you screw it up, what are you going to do? You're going to blame your caddy? Oh, wait a minute, you don't have one. What are you going to blame? Can't blame the weather because everybody's playing in the same stuff. So it's the one sport that really does kind of focus in on the individual, and with that sometimes the team aspect gets lost, but it's not lost on Reece, and that's another cool thing about her.
So the Magic Valley always has a lot of good golf invitationals and competitions during the regular season, and we'll certainly be keeping an eye on Kimberly as they get closer to state. I feel like golf is always one of the first events to wrap up in the spring as well. I feel like golf gets done like way earlier than the rest of the sports. So, postseason golf is actually like not that far away. So,
yeah, no, we are looking through the calendar. We're getting to that midway point where, you got to start kind of ratcheting up your game because state is, like you said, right around the corner. It's flying by so fast. And that's true for all the spring sports right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, and golf too. I'd be curious to know in Idaho, and I'll admit I don't know this, but in other states where I've lived, Montana, Nebraska, Wyoming, when you go to a golf competition, you have your golf coach, obviously, but once your player tees off, you are not allowed in those other states. You're not allowed as a coach to kind of follow him or her around the course and give them advice. It's kind of like, okay, you teed off and you're on your own. So there's a lot of individual ownership in golf too, I feel like.
Oh, there's no question about it. And that's one of the things that makes golf really unique is, I coached golf at one time too, and we had state players, and, once they teed off, we were done. We had to back off, let them do their thing, couldn't talk to them at all, and so the golf coaching and the golf mentality, you talk about and you hear about these golfers that just are tough mentally. Well, you've got to be. That is the one sport where you are just alone in your head all the time because you don't have the caddy in high school. You don't have that sounding board. You don't have anybody there to hear you gripe and complain and what do I need to do? Why am I shanking it? Why is it coming off the hosel? What's going on? You don't have that. And so the mental game and the preparation is so crucial. And so that's why it's so hard for some of these high school kids because, it's one thing to play with a coach walking beside you. It's another thing to be turned out on your own and then have the mental toughness to battle through some of your own problems. And so that's why you don't see a lot of these great golfers. And it's because they just don't have that hold on the mental game. And golf is a different animal.
Yeah, definitely. I know that in terms of where Kimberly is competing, I know Homedale has always been a tough golf program. Bonners Ferry is really coming on. They've got a really young golfer that will probably push Reece in the individual competition as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun to keep an eye on. And Reece Garey from Kimberly, like you said, not just a great golfer, not just a great athlete, but a great person, 4.0 student. And she's on a great trajectory forward. So that was awesome to hear.
It is. And, and one last thing I'll say about her too is that she's also the kid that understands that you have to put the time in. You'll find her in the summers working on her game. She plays in the IGA juniors. And, she even went back to North Carolina to represent Idaho at a week-long state champions tournament at Pinehurst, getting to play, 6, 8, 9 there. So she's putting in the time. But, again, you talk to the people that know her, and they're going to tell you that she loves the pressure, thrives under the pressure, which kind of goes right back to what I was talking about. You just don't find those kids that handle pressure very well anymore. In this day and age, the way the kids are these days, we can get into a whole segment, a whole show of the mentality of kids these days and their ability to handle pressure, to handle adversity, to overcome things. It's disappearing, just as a person, not just as an athlete, but as people, we're losing it. And, golf is one of those things to where, okay, fine, you better have some coping mechanism because things aren't going to go your way a lot on the golf course. So you better figure it out and able to handle the pressure. And you ask the people that know Reece, they'll tell you the same thing. Loves the pressure, can handle it well.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. You're right. We don't handle, as a society, we don't handle adversity very well right now. So
we don't. We don't.
That's for sure. Okay, so let's continue the golf conversation. The big story for golf next year is going to be this splitting of the classifications. The IHSAA at their last meeting, as we're recording this, they had a meeting today, not this meeting, but the one that was a couple months ago. They decided to send 5A and 4A golf to the fall, and they will keep 3A, 2A, 1A in the spring. And this was, at least from what I saw and kind of observed, mixed feelings on both sides. Let's start from the perspective of 5A, 4A. And of course, there's an entire 4A conference in the Magic Valley. Now those athletes will have to shift to the fall where the weather, at least to me, doesn't seem like it's going to be as good.
Well, it's such a mixed bag on who you talk to. And over the course of the week, I talked to a lot of different people, some golf pros, some golf coaches, and nobody is settled in on one popular idea because everybody is saying, I see the pros, I see the cons. Here they are, and so you talk about the weather. I think the first thing that people think about is, oh my gosh, the fall weather is fantastic. That would be awesome. Well, true, but think about what happens towards the end of October, beginning of November, when everything starts to change, and how football games and football state playoffs are played in just absolutely miserable conditions and freezing conditions. Well, golf is going to be facing that now, And so you talk about weather. Yeah, maybe the regular season is going to be great, but your state tournament is most likely not going to have the best weather. And so there's that argument. But then the people on the other side say, well, that's what spring's all about anyway. They're so used to it by then, they should be fine. So you're getting both sides of that. And so the weather thing, yeah, at the beginning is going to be great. State tournament probably isn't going to be all that awesome.
And my personal opinion, if the trade-off is crappy weather early, beautiful weather at state, or good weather early, crappy weather at state, I'd rather take the first choice. I'd rather at state the weather be nice. In Montana, they did this switch, and there have been state golf tournaments where there's snow. I mean, that's just the reality of where we live. So
yeah, it is. It's well, the funny thing is probably the reality of whether you have it in the fall or the spring. It's not gonna discriminate whether you're playing in the fall or the spring. It's just Idaho weather.
Yeah. So from what I've seen, proponents of the move to the fall came from a lot of the Boise area schools, and they say basically, hey, in the springtime, we have a tough time getting time on the course because that's when the general public also wants to golf, right? Is in the spring, and these schools have to go to the various golf courses in their communities to get practice time in, and they run into that a little bit where the schedule gets really full in the springs, and they think in the fall there aren't as many people golfing. But again, I don't know that I buy that because there's just as many fall leagues as there are spring golf leagues.
Yeah, it depends. I talked to two different golf pros that said two different things. One of them was not too keen on the move because some of the better weather. Now, but you got to keep in mind too that you're talking fall. You're talking really late summer. I mean, because it's going to be August. It's going to be into September. Those are 2 solid months. And so I talked to a couple of pros that were like, yeah, we don't want to give those months up. But then I talked to another one that said, you know what, by that time, people are moving on. They've already played the entire summer. They're more likely to shut it down. Where in the spring, people are just jonesing to get out there. They're just anxious to hit the golf course. And so they will golf through some crappy weather in the spring because they've been sitting all winter long waiting to play. And so the anticipation's a little bit more in the springtime. By the time fall rolls around, even though the weather might be a little bit better, they're more likely to stand down because they've been playing all summer. And so really you've got 2 schools of thought. And I heard it from both sides from a couple of different places saying the total opposite things. And so if you take that straw poll from around the state, I bet you're getting that same thing.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the Boise area coaches, players, etc., are in favor of it. Up north, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, they hate it. They want to keep it in the spring. They're not keen on that at all. And the other big factor to consider is golf is one of the few sports where you can have a 5A through 1A competition, and it can be an equal competition. You could have a 1A school that has a golfer that's just as talented as a 5A school. And so by splitting up the classifications, what you're going to do is, like in the fall, these 4A schools, where are they going to go to compete? I mean, they're going to be facing the same teams all the time. And the same thing in the spring. A school like Kimberly, well, boy, you've got the teams in your conference and Marsh Valley, Snake River. It's going to get really old playing those same teams all the time at these invites. Whereas when you've got 5A all the way down to 1A together, you can get a little more variety and even some bigger tournaments.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is there are some 3As around here in the Magic Valley that host really good golf tournaments that draw in a lot of people, and that's not going to happen anymore. So you do have some of these teams in the Magic Valley that are going to look to go play elsewhere. They're going to go find tournaments in Utah and Nevada just to replace what they're going to miss with those 3As. Now, again, it's a lot of it really is kind of based on location. You know, the Boise Valley is a completely different animal too. I mean, Boise Valley is so their own Vatican. It's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, it's the banana belt, weather, whatever. Secondly, they have so many schools there, especially 5A, 4A, that I don't know, much is going to change for them. You know, the only thing they may want to get out of town once in a while to come to a Jerome Invitational, you know, or whatever the case is, but they're so inclusive up there. But then you get to a place around here, the Magic Valley in particular, where we've got basically 4As, 3As, and 2As. We don't have any 5As. And so the 4As, the Great Basin 7, they are going to be absolutely taken away from this giant golf picture that we have built with Kimberly and Buell, who are really good golf programs and hold invitationals. And it's not going to happen anymore. And so it affects us, I think, and in some other portions of the state too that have the same makeup, a lot differently than it does a Boise school. And that's, you know, no fault of Boise. That's just the makeup of the schools in the area.
Yeah, up north. I mean, that's all these tournaments are. It's, you know, Post Falls to Bonners Ferry to St. Mary's. They're all competing at these big, large invites, and that's going to go away. The teams up north are really going to struggle with that as well. So it appears we're as clear as mud on this move.
Yeah, I know. You know, and there's another component to it as well. I mean, because you're going to be able to find arguments on both sides of the coin on this one. You know, another argument that works in favor of the move is that this will be golf is really the one sport. I mean, you think about the high school sports, right? Golf is the one sport in the spring that you start playing without really having practiced for months, right? I mean, you talk about starting cold and just jumping right into a season. Well, the fall is going to eliminate that, you know, because these kids will be having worked on their game all spring, all summer before they hit their stride. And then if you want to look at it from a perspective of, well, you know what, I want that golf scholarship. You know, I want to, you know, get some looks. Well, you might have an opportunity now a little bit better because you've been practicing all this time before you actually hit these tournaments, including state. Where in the spring, it's like no practice, crappy weather, maybe there's snow on the ground. So now I've got to travel somewhere else that doesn't have snow and play in the 25-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, but you've never worked on your game in the spring, right? Fall, you get that opportunity. So there is an argument for that as well. And like I said, you're going to find it on both sides.
Yeah, I think spring or fall should have just kept it together. Keep everybody together. And the argument is, well, at the smaller schools, kids that are golfing might do other sports in the fall. But to me, aren't there more sports in the spring? I mean, they're choosing golf over baseball or softball. I mean, I don't think you can worry about that. I don't think it matters what season you're in. The kids that really want to golf are going to golf.
Yeah, you know what? You're going to lose some, you're going to gain some. You know, there's a school around here that's going to lose their number one girl to volleyball, and they're going to lose their number 1, 2 boy to soccer. You know, and so unfortunately, it's going to hurt that particular school in our conference a lot more than it will some other schools. In fact, it might make some other golf teams better because the guy that you really wanted to play was on the baseball team. You know, and that's what he did. Is he played maybe basketball and baseball. Well, guess what? Now we can play golf. So, you know, you're just going to have to pick what's important to you and stick with it, but also understand that there's a completely different argument, and there is a yin and yang to every facet of this move.
Yeah, let me ask you, how realistic is it? Because where I grew up in Montana, I was in 8th grade when they made the switch to move golf from the spring to the fall. And my high school had a really outstanding football player, quarterback, that went on to play. He was actually a punter for the University of Montana, but he was also a great golfer in the spring. And he said, well, I want to do both. And they said, okay, come to football practice. And then when that's done, go get a round in. and that's your golf practice. And
Mm-hmm.
you can do both. You know, we see all the time players that play soccer and also kick for the football team. We see athletes that run cross country and play soccer. How feasible is it for somebody to golf and do another sport?
Well, I think golf is the one thing that you can really do it with. You know, I mean, think about it. The golf tournaments are held on Mondays for the most part. There's nothing else going on Mondays. And so if you have some sort of arrangement or agreement and the kid's able to keep his grades up or her grades up, then why not allow them that opportunity? You know, they would just go practice on their own. I mean, it's not like they're going to a gym and shooting 100 free throws and going through a workout. You know, go hit the range for an hour, go play 9 holes and record a score. Just, you know, something like that to show practice. And you can do that anytime. And then play your tournaments on a Monday, just have some sort of arrangement with your other coaches that this is what it's going to be. But I think it's definitely feasible. Definitely feasible.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see how fall golf works and how many athletes are doing that plus something else, and how that might be affected. But for now, I guess one final spring season for those 4A schools in the Magic Valley. We'll have a spring send off, and then but think about this: they're going to golf all spring, golf all summer, and then golf all fall. There's not going to be a break.
That's going to be awesome if you're a golfer and you love it. You know. Because you're right. Because as soon as this spring season ends, I mean, you're not just taking the summer off to goof around. I mean, you need to be working on your game because you've got a season coming up here in just a little bit. So I'm really interested to see, really, Brandon, how the scores are going to change a lot too through the course of the season. And once we get into state, like we talked about, what is the weather going to be like? Because, yeah, normally it's state golf. In the spring, chances are the weather's a whole lot better, but we're downtrending in the fall, heading to some really nasty possible conditions. So I'm interested to see the weather, number one, how that turns out at state. Number two, I'm interested to see how good golf is in the fall, because during the regular season, because you're not generally battling all the spring conditions. And then three, I'm interested to see how many athletes are able to do golf and another fall sport. So those are really the three things I'm looking for at the end of next year.
Yeah, it'll be a lot to keep an eye on, but we'll do it. And I liked this, you know, taking a break from some of the other stuff going on just to talk golf. You know, I enjoy golf. I'm terrible at it, like you. I'm awful at it, but I still enjoy going out and just hitting the ball. So
yeah, I do too. I mean, I love to play golf. Golf is grew up on a golf course. Grew up, you know, even though I didn't play until afterwards, I still grew up playing. You know, and love to get out and play. Just played in Boise at Shadow Valley for the AD conference over the past weekend. So love to play me some golf. It's so much fun. And yeah, I mean, what other sport do you get to throw things, swear a lot, and then, you know, try to hit people and just yell for. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, before we duck out too, I wanted to give another shout out to another Kimberly athlete we talked about last week, Gatlin Bear. You know, we did that Prepcast, and then all of a sudden the football offers just came piling in. Utah State, Boise State, and I mean, he's only a sophomore. I mean, this is going to be, we talked about it with Colston Loveland and Amari Whiting, and now you've got Gatlin Bear. I mean, it is just one after another, these standout, and even Jackson Bear, these standout big time Division I athletes coming out of the Magic Valley.
Yeah. And it's so cool that if our little podcast had any type of reach to get the word out and draw attention to these kids, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. That might've been coincidental. I'm not sure, but we'll take the credit for it.
Yeah, you're right. We will.
No doubt. All right. Well, we'll be back next week to break down more spring sports action. And again, if there's an idea, if there's a team, player, story, something you want us to talk about, shoot me an email, Brandon@IdahoSports.com, and we'd love to break it down for you here on the Magic Valley Prepcast. So until then, for Scott Burton, Tiger Woods. I'm Brandon Baney, and we'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.